My name is Amelia, and I am 32 years old. 4 years ago, I inherited my grandfather's tech company worth $15 million. When I met Adam, I made the decision to keep my wealth a secret until after we were married. Something about his mother, Barbara, always felt off, but I ignored my instincts. Thank God I protected my assets, because the day after our honeymoon, Barbara showed up at our door with a notary and a pen demanding I sign over my company. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from, and do not forget to like and subscribe, as I share how I narrowly escaped losing everything I worked for. Growing up, my grandfather was my hero. While other kids spent weekends at the mall, I shadowed him at his small tech company that specialized in cybersecurity software. Thomas Wright was not just my grandfather but my mentor and best friend. From age 10, I was spending every summer at his office, learning how businesses operate, understanding financial statements, and absorbing his entrepreneurial wisdom. Amelia, remember that a business is only as good as the problem it solves, he would tell me as we reviewed client feedback together. And always protect what you build, because not everyone will be happy to see you succeed. I took his words to heart, majoring in computer science and business administration in college. During those years, Grandpa would call me every Sunday evening to discuss what I had learned that week, challenging me with real business problems his company faced. Those conversations became the foundation of my business acumen. When I turned 24, he offered me a position at Wright Security Solutions. I started at the bottom, working in customer support, then moving to sales, product development, and finally operations. Grandpa never handed me anything on a silver platter. I earned every promotion through hard work and results. I want you to understand every aspect of this business, he explained, because someday it will be yours to lead. That day came sooner than either of us expected. 4 years ago, when I was 28, my grandfather suffered a massive heart attack. The loss devastated me. Beyond the personal grief, I suddenly found myself inheriting a company valued at $5 million and the responsibility for 30 employees who depended on it for their livelihoods. The transition was not smooth. As a female CEO in the male-dominated cybersecurity industry, I faced immediate challenges. Several clients requested meetings to confirm I was capable of delivering the same quality service. 2 senior employees resigned rather than report to someone they considered inexperienced. Some vendors attempted to renegotiate terms, assuming I would be easy to manipulate. During those first 6 months, I cried in my car almost every night after work. But I never showed weakness at the office. Instead, I channeled my grandfather's resilience and strategic thinking. I hired fresh talent, restructured our service offerings, and pursued an aggressive growth strategy focused on an underserved market segment, small to medium businesses that needed affordable cybersecurity solutions. My personal experiences shaped my business approach. In college, my first serious boyfriend, Jason, had cheated on me with my roommate. My next relationship was with Eric, who borrowed $8,000 for a business investment that conveniently disappeared along with him. These betrayals made me cautious about trusting others, a trait that served me well in business negotiations but complicated my personal life. Under my leadership, Wright Security Solutions grew from a $5 million company to $15 million in just 4 years. We expanded from 30 to 78 employees, opened a second office in Austin, and developed proprietary software that revolutionized threat detection for small businesses. I was proud of what we had accomplished, but I kept my success relatively quiet. Despite my growing wealth, I maintained a modest lifestyle. I lived in a comfortable but not extravagant condo, drove a 4-year-old Audi, and invested most of my earnings back into the company. My grandfather had taught me that flashy displays of wealth attracted the wrong kind of attention both personally and professionally. Money should be a tool, not an identity, he often said. This philosophy guided my approach to both business and relationships. My caution about revealing my financial status stemmed from painful experience. After my company received a prestigious innovation award that made local headlines, I briefly dated Michael, who seemed perfect, until I discovered he had researched my net worth before our first date and had a history of pursuing wealthy women. Then came Daniel, who subtly pushed for investing together after just 3 months of dating. These experiences reinforced my decision to keep my business success separate from my dating life. When I met someone new, I simply said I worked in tech, letting them assume I was a mid-level employee. I wanted to be loved for who I was, not what I owned. By the time I turned 32, I had grown increasingly comfortable with my dual identity, powerful CEO by day, ordinary woman by night. I had built a strong network of fellow female entrepreneurs who understood the unique challenges we faced. We supported each other through business challenges and personal disappointments, celebrating victories together over wine and honest conversations. My closest friend Jenna often questioned my secretiveness about my success. "You should be proud of what you have built," she would argue. "The right person will appreciate your accomplishments without trying to take advantage." I knew she had a point, but years of disappointment had made me wary. "I will know when it is the right time to share that part of my life," I always responded. "Until then, I am protecting what Grandpa and I built together." Little did I know how prophetic those words would prove to be, or how soon I would be tested. I met Adam Clark at my college friend Sarah's wedding 3 years ago. He was the best man and I was a bridesmaid. During the reception, while other guests were dancing and drinking, I found Adam sitting alone grading papers. "Bringing work to a wedding is a bold choice," I commented, taking a seat beside him. He looked up with an apologetic smile that immediately caught my attention. "These essays are due back on Monday, and my students have waited long enough." His dedication intrigued me. Adam taught high school history and coached the debate team at a public school in Minneapolis. When he talked about his students, his eyes lit up with genuine passion. "Education is about more than facts," he explained later that night, as we shared a slice of wedding cake. "It is about teaching young people to think critically about the world around them." Our conversation flowed effortlessly from education to books, travel, and our shared love of documentaries. By the end of the night, we had exchanged numbers, and I found myself hoping he would call. He did the very next day, asking if I would like to meet for coffee that weekend. Our first official date was at a small cafe near a bookstore. We spent hours talking, then browsing books, recommending our favorites to each other. Adam's choice, a biography of a little-known civil rights activist, revealed his thoughtful nature. What struck me most about Adam was his apparent disinterest in material wealth. He drove an old Honda with over 200,000 miles on it, wore simple, well-worn clothes, and got excited about finding books in thrift stores. When I mentioned I worked in tech, he asked about what I found fulfilling about my job rather than asking about company names or salary potential. After a month of dating, Adam invited me to his apartment for dinner. He lived in a modest, one-bedroom place filled with books, vintage maps, and artifacts from his summer trips abroad. He had cooked a simple but delicious pasta dish and served it with wine in mismatched glasses. There was something refreshingly authentic about his life. "I know teaching does not make me rich," he said that night, "but it makes me happy. I have everything I need." His contentment with a simple life was attractive to me after dating men who seemed constantly focused on climbing social and financial ladders. For the first time, I considered revealing the truth about my company and wealth. The words were on the tip of my tongue as we sat on his worn couch discussing our future dreams. But then Adam mentioned how his father had left his mother for a corporate type who had her own business. The pain in his voice was still raw. "My mom raised me on her teacher's salary after that," he said proudly. "She taught me that happiness comes from making a difference, not making money." In that moment, I decided to wait. His family history with a female business owner complicated things. I told myself our relationship was still new, and there would be a better time to share my full story. I convinced myself that waiting until after marriage would be best when our commitment was legally solidified, and he knew me well enough to understand that my business did not define me. As months passed, our relationship deepened. Adam was attentive, kind, and thoughtful in ways I had never experienced. He remembered small details about my preferences, supported my long work hours without complaint, and always made time for us despite his busy teaching schedule. When I had to cancel plans because of work emergencies, actually company crises that required my immediate attention, he was understanding. After 8 months of dating, Adam suggested I meet his mother. "She is the most important person in my life," he explained. "And you are becoming equally important. I want the two people I love most to know each other." Barbara Clark lived in a small house about 30 minutes outside Minneapolis. On our first meeting, she welcomed me with a tight smile that did not reach her eyes. Throughout dinner, she questioned me about my family, my job, and my intentions with her son. Her interest might have seemed natural for a protective mother, but something about her intensity felt invasive. "Adam tells me you work in technology," she said, studying me carefully. "That must be lucrative." "It pays the bills," I responded casually, sticking to my cover story of being a project manager at a mid-sized firm. Throughout the evening, I noticed how Adam deferred to his mother on almost everything from when to serve dessert to what movie they should watch together on their weekly Sunday night gatherings. Their relationship seemed unusually close, bordering on dependent. Barbara mentioned multiple times how Adam helped with her finances, home repairs, and even grocery shopping. "I do not know what I would do without my son," she said, patting his hand. "He takes such good care of me, just like a son should." On the drive home, I gently asked Adam about their relationship. "You and your mom seem very close." "She sacrificed everything for me growing up," he replied immediately. "Working 2 jobs, never dating again after my dad left. Taking care of her is the least I can do." His loyalty was admirable, but something about the dynamic left me uneasy. Still, I dismissed my concerns as overreaction, perhaps even jealousy. Adam was a kind man who valued family, I reasoned. That was a positive trait, not a red flag. As our relationship progressed, we spent holidays together, went on weekend trips, and gradually built a shared life. Adam continued to impress me with his character intelligence and emotional availability. When I compared him to my past relationships, there seemed to be no contest. I began to imagine a future together, something I had never seriously considered with anyone else. Yet Barbara remained a subtle source of tension. She called Adam multiple times daily, often during our dates. She had opinions about our relationship milestones, suggesting where we should go on vacation and even what apartment we should consider if we moved in together. Adam rarely contradicted her. "Jenna warned me after meeting Barbara at a dinner party. That woman sees you as competition, not family," she observed. "And Adam does not seem to notice." I acknowledged her concern but rationalized it away. "She is just protective. She will warm up to me eventually." In truth, I was falling deeply in love with Adam and did not want to see potential problems that might force me to reconsider our relationship. When Adam proposed after 18 months of dating, I said yes, without hesitation. That night, as he slept beside me, I looked at my engagement ring and wondered if I had made a mistake not telling him about my company. But I reassured myself that there would be time for that conversation after we were married, when nothing could come between us. How wrong I was. Adam proposed on a crisp autumn evening at the lakeside park where we had spent our third date. He had arranged a picnic with all my favorite foods, and as the sun set over the water, he got down on one knee and presented a modest but beautiful ring. "Amelia, you have brought light and joy into my life in ways I never imagined possible," he said, his voice trembling slightly. "I want to build a future with you, to grow old together, to face whatever life brings as partners. Will you marry me?" Tears filled my eyes as I said yes. In that moment, I was certain I had found the partner I had always hoped for, someone who loved me for myself, not my assets or status. The day after our engagement, reality set in. As a business owner with significant assets, I needed to protect what I had built. I scheduled a meeting with my attorney, Caroline, who had handled my company's legal affairs since I took over. "Congratulations on your engagement," she said when I told her the news. "Now let us talk about protecting your interests." Caroline recommended a comprehensive plan, creating an irrevocable trust for the company, ensuring all business assets were clearly separated from personal ones, and drafting a prenuptial agreement that would protect both Adam and me in case of divorce. The trust is particularly important, she explained. It establishes that the company was yours before marriage and remains separate property. I followed her advice on the trust and asset protection, but hesitated on the prenuptial agreement. How could I ask Adam to sign a document protecting assets he did not know existed? Instead, I opted for a simpler prenup that covered our current known assets and included general language about businesses or inheritances received before marriage remaining separate property. When I broached the subject with Adam, he was initially surprised. "Do you really think we need that?" he asked, looking hurt. I explained that it was standard practice for many couples and would protect both of us. "It is like insurance," I said. "You hope you never need it, but it is wise to have it." After some discussion, he agreed, though I could tell the conversation had unsettled him. I reassured myself that once we were married, I would explain everything and he would understand my caution. Meanwhile, wedding planning began in earnest, and with it came increased involvement from Barbara. What started as suggestions quickly evolved into expectations and then demands. She had opinions about everything from the venue to the floral arrangements to the guest list. "Adam has always dreamed of getting married in his hometown church," she insisted, though Adam had never mentioned this to me. "The Clark family traditionally has blue and silver as wedding colors," she stated, firmly overriding my preference for burgundy and gold. Each time I tried to assert my preferences, Barbara would appeal directly to Adam, who inevitably tried to compromise to keep both of us happy. These situations increasingly put him in the middle, forcing him to choose between his mother and me. As we toured potential reception venues, Barbara made a comment that set off alarm bells. "This one seems so expensive," she said, eyeing the lakeside hotel I preferred. "I hope you are not expecting Adam to pay for your extravagant taste. Teachers do not make much, you know." "We are splitting costs," I replied, though in truth I planned to pay for most of the wedding from my savings to avoid financial strain on Adam. I had explained this to him privately, framing it as an inheritance from my grandfather rather than business income. Barbara's materialistic tendencies became more apparent as planning progressed. She frequently commented on the cost of items not to economize but to assess their quality and status. She admiringly touched the diamond in my engagement ring multiple times, asking questions about its clarity and carat weight. When discussing honeymoon destinations, she pushed for more expensive options than Adam and I had considered. "You only get married once," she said. "You should stay at a 5-star resort, not some budget hotel." The contradiction confused me until I realized Barbara wanted the appearance of wealth without believing we should pay for it. She wanted the status without the expenditure. One evening after a particularly tense planning session, I expressed my concerns to Adam. "I feel like your mother is taking over our wedding," I said carefully. "And sometimes it seems like she is more focused on appearances than what would make us happy." Adam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "She is just excited. This is her only child getting married. And she has always been a bit particular about things." "It is more than that," I pressed. "She dismisses my input and undermines my decisions. She treats me like I am an outsider in my own wedding planning." "You are exaggerating," Adam replied, his tone growing defensive. "She is trying to help. Wedding planning is stressful for everyone." His dismissal of my concerns hurt more than Barbara's behavior. It established a pattern that would continue. Barbara would overstep, I would express discomfort, and Adam would minimize my feelings to avoid confronting his mother. As the wedding date approached, my anxiety grew. Not just about Barbara, but about my undisclosed company and wealth. Several times I nearly told Adam everything, but each time something held me back. His comments about corporate types, Barbara's increasing interest in financial matters, my own fear of changing the dynamic of our relationship right before the wedding. 2 weeks before the ceremony, we met with a marriage counselor who was to perform our ceremony. When she asked about our financial plans and expectations, Adam spoke about combining our resources and making decisions together. "We will pool our teacher salaries," he said with a smile. "It will not be much, but we will make it work." I nodded along, feeling increasingly guilty about my deception. That night I called Jenna in tears. "I should have told him months ago," I confessed. "Now I am trapped. If I tell him right before the wedding, he might feel betrayed and call it off. If I wait until after, he might feel I tricked him. You need to tell him now, Jenna advised firmly. Better a difficult conversation before marriage than a potential disaster after. I knew she was right, but fear paralyzed me. I had built this relationship on partial truths, and now I did not know how to introduce the full reality without shattering what we had. The final straw came at our rehearsal dinner. Barbara stood to give a toast glass of champagne held high. To Adam and Amelia, she began with a smile that did not warm her eyes. May your marriage be blessed with happiness, good health, and shared prosperity. In the Clark family, we believe that what belongs to one belongs to all. We support each other, share with each other, and always, always put family first. Her emphasis on shared prosperity and what belongs to one belongs to all sent a chill down my spine. I glanced at Caroline, who had been invited as my friend rather than my attorney. She raised an eyebrow slightly, having caught the same concerning language I had. After the dinner, Caroline pulled me aside. That toast was interesting, she said carefully. Has Barbara shown unusual interest in your finances? She asks a lot of questions, I admitted. But Adam always changes the subject. Good, Caroline nodded. Remember what we set up. Your company is protected. Just be vigilant. As I fell asleep that night, the eve of my wedding, I comforted myself with that knowledge. Whatever happened, Right Security Solutions was legally protected. I had honored my grandfather's legacy and secured the livelihoods of my employees. Little did I know how soon that protection would be tested. My wedding day dawned clear and beautiful, the September sun casting a golden glow over the church Barbara had insisted upon. Despite my reservations about the venue, I had to admit it photographed beautifully. As I stood in the bridal suite surrounded by my closest friends, I felt a surging hope that everything would work out perfectly. Jenna helped adjust my veil, her expression serious. Are you sure about this? It is not too late to have that conversation. I shook my head. Today is about celebrating our love. The rest can wait. The ceremony itself was more moving than I had anticipated. When the doors opened and I saw Adam waiting at the altar, his eyes filling with tears at the sight of me, all my doubts temporarily vanished. This was the man I loved, the person I wanted to build a life with. When it came time for our vows, Adam surprised me with words so heartfelt that they brought tears to my eyes. Amelia, before I met you, I thought I understood what it meant to care for someone. But you have shown me depths of love I never knew existed. I promise to honor your independence while standing by your side to support your dreams as fervently as my own, and to always see you, truly see you, for the extraordinary woman you are. His mention of honoring my independence and supporting my dreams struck me deeply, renewing my guilt about not sharing my complete truth with him. In that moment, I silently vowed to tell him everything as soon as we returned from our honeymoon. The reception was a blur of dancing, toasting, and celebrating with loved ones. Barbara maintained a tight smile throughout, watching our every interaction with careful eyes. Once, when Adam was pulled away by groomsmen for photos, she approached me. You make a lovely bride, she said, adjusting my necklace in a gesture that felt oddly possessive. Welcome to the family. We Clarks take care of our own, you know. Something in her tone made me uneasy, but I pushed the feeling aside. This was my wedding day, and I refused to let anything darken it. Adam and I departed for our Hawaiian honeymoon the next morning. For 10 blissful days, we swam in crystal blue waters, hiked to stunning waterfalls, and made love in our oceanfront suite. Away from work, family, and the stresses of wedding planning, our connection felt stronger than ever. One evening, as we watched the sunset from our balcony, Adam took my hand. Thank you for marrying me, he said simply. I know my mother can be overwhelming sometimes. I appreciate your patience with her. It was the first time he had acknowledged Barbara's difficult nature without me bringing it up first. She loves you, I replied carefully. I understand that. She does, he nodded. After my dad left, it was just the two of us against the world. She has trouble letting go sometimes, but she will adjust. She just needs time. His recognition of the issue gave me hope that our married life would include healthier boundaries with Barbara. I nearly told him about my company then, the words forming in my mind, but he leaned in to kiss me and the moment passed. We returned home on a Tuesday, tanned and relaxed, ready to begin our life together in the 3-bedroom house we had purchased, with my secretly covering most of the down payment. That first evening as a married couple in our new home felt magical as we unpacked souvenirs and reminisced about our favorite moments from the trip. The next morning, Adam received a text from his mother. "Mom wants to come by today," he mentioned casually as we had coffee. "She says she has a wedding present she could not bring to the reception." A flicker of unease passed through me, but I nodded. "Sure, what time?" "Around 11, he replied. I told her that works since we are both still off work this week. At precisely 11 o'clock, the doorbell rang. Adam opened it to reveal Barbara standing there with a tightly wrapped package, and surprisingly, another person, a stern-looking older man in a formal suit carrying a briefcase. "Mom," Adam said, confusion evident in his voice. "Who is this?" "This is Mr. Patterson," Barbara replied smoothly, stepping inside without waiting for an invitation. "He is a notary. He is helping me with some important family business today." My stomach dropped as they entered our living room. Barbara placed the wrapped package on our coffee table, but made no move to have us open it. Instead, she sat primly on our sofa and gestured for Mr. Patterson to take a seat beside her. "Amelia," she said, her voice suddenly businesslike, "it is time we had an honest conversation." Adam looked between his mother and me, clearly bewildered. "Mom, what is going on?" Barbara ignored him, her eyes fixed on me. "Did you really think I would not find out about Right Security Solutions? About the $15 million company you inherited and have been hiding from my son?" The room seemed to tilt slightly. Adam turned to me, shock written across his features. "What is she talking about, Amelia?" Before I could respond, Barbara continued. "I have a friend whose son works in business journalism. When Adam told me he was getting serious about you, I asked my friend to look into your background. Imagine my surprise when he discovered you are not just some ordinary tech employee, but the CEO of a significant cybersecurity firm." "You investigated me," I managed to say, anger beginning to replace my shock. "I protected my son," she corrected sharply. "Which is more than I can say for you. You lied to him throughout your entire relationship." Adam's face had gone pale. "Amelia, is this true? Do you own a company?" The hurt and confusion in his eyes made my chest ache. "Yes," I admitted quietly. "I inherited my grandfather's cybersecurity company 4 years ago. I was planning to tell you after we returned from our honeymoon." "Planning to tell me?" Adam repeated incredulously. "We have been together for 2 years, Amelia. We just got married. How could you keep something this significant from me?" "I can explain," I began, but Barbara cut me off. "Explanations can wait," she said firmly. "What matters now is making things right." She nodded to Mr. Patterson, who opened his briefcase and removed several official-looking documents. "I have taken the liberty of preparing the necessary paperwork to transfer ownership of the company to the Clark Family Trust." Excuse me, I could hardly believe what I was hearing. Barbara smiled thinly. "Since you are now a Clark, and since you clearly did not disclose this asset before the marriage, it should rightfully be considered marital property. These documents will simply formalize that fact." "That is absolutely not how it works," I said, finding my voice again. "The company is in a trust established before our marriage. It is legally protected as separate property. And even if it were not, we have been married for less than 2 weeks. There is no way it would be considered marital property." Mr. Patterson looked uncomfortable but said nothing. Adam stood frozen, seemingly unable to process what was happening. Barbara turned to her son, her voice softening dramatically. "This woman deceived you. She hid her true financial status from you for your entire relationship. Now that you are married, you have legal rights to what she owns. Do not let her take advantage of you the way your father did to me." The manipulation was so blatant it was almost laughable, except nothing about this situation was funny. Barbara was actually attempting to coerce me into signing over my company, and she had brought a notary to our home to facilitate it. I turned to Adam, hoping to see recognition of his mother's outrageous behavior. Instead, I saw confusion and hurt, but not the immediate rejection of her scheme that I had expected. "You really kept this from me?" he asked quietly. "All this time?" In that moment, I realized I was facing this battle alone. The living room of our new home, which should have been filled with honeymoon memories and marital bliss, had transformed into a battleground. Barbara sat with perfect posture, the documents laid out before her like weapons. Mr. Patterson, the notary, shifted uncomfortably in his seat, clearly realizing he had been brought into a family situation far more contentious than he had been led to believe. "I will not be signing anything," I stated firmly, looking directly at Barbara. "What you are suggesting is not only unethical but likely illegal. You cannot force someone to sign over their assets." Barbara's smile remained fixed, though her eyes hardened. "I am not forcing anyone to do anything. I am simply suggesting that as a family, we should be transparent and share our resources. Adam has always understood the importance of family support." She turned to Adam, her expression morphing into one of maternal concern. "Your father left us with nothing, Adam. Remember how we struggled, how I worked 2 jobs to put you through college. Now you have an opportunity to secure our family's future, to make sure neither of us ever has to worry again." I watched in disbelief as she skillfully leveraged their shared past trauma to manipulate her son. More disturbing was seeing how effective her tactics were. Adam's expression softened at the mention of their struggles, his loyalty to his mother visibly warring with his confusion over my deception. "Adam," I said quietly, trying to reach him, "I was wrong not to tell you about the company sooner. I can explain why I waited, but what your mother is suggesting is not the solution. She is asking me to give up a business that employs 78 people that my grandfather built from nothing, that I have grown substantially over the last 4 years. You have been running a $15 million company our entire relationship," Adam asked, his voice strained. "All those late-night work emergencies, the business trips, the stress you would never fully explain that, was because you are a CEO." I nodded, relief washing over me that he seemed to be engaging with the reality rather than his mother's narrative. "Yes. I should have told you sooner. I was afraid it would change how you saw me." "Change how he saw you?" Barbara interjected sharply. "You mean he might have seen you as a liar? Which you are." "Mom, please," Adam said finally, showing some resistance to her influence. "Let me talk to my wife." The word wife seemed to trigger something in Barbara. Her composed facade cracked slightly. "Wife for less than 2 weeks," she snapped. "This woman deceived you throughout your entire courtship, hid crucial information about herself, and now wants to keep her fortune separate from you. How can you defend her?" Adam ran his hands through his hair, visibly stressed. "I am not defending anyone. I am trying to understand what is happening." "What is happening," Barbara said, regaining her composure, "is that I am protecting you as I always have. This woman clearly married you under false pretenses." False pretenses. I could not contain my outrage any longer. "I loved your son. I still love him. I kept my business separate from our relationship because I wanted to be sure he loved me for myself, not my money or status." A convenient excuse Barbara dismissed. "If that were true, you would have told him before the wedding. Instead, you trapped him in a marriage built on lies." Mr. Patterson cleared his throat awkwardly. "Perhaps I should return another time when family matters have been resolved." "You are not going anywhere," Barbara commanded. "We have business to complete." She turned back to Adam. "Son, think about what this means for us. For your future. With control of her company, you could quit teaching live comfortably. We could finally renovate my house, get you the car you deserve. All those things we could never afford would be possible." Her naked greed stunned me into momentary silence. This was no longer about protecting her son from a deceitful wife. This was about accessing my wealth for herself. "So that is what this is really about," I said softly. "You want my money." I want what is fair for my son. Barbara's voice rose for the first time. He deserves half of everything you own now that you are married. That is not how marital property works, I countered, grateful for my legal preparations. Assets owned before marriage, especially those held in trust, remain separate property. We will see about that, Barbara threatened. I have consulted attorneys. There are ways to challenge such arrangements, especially when fraud is involved. Fraud, I repeated incredulously. You deliberately concealed your assets before marriage. That could be considered fraud. Adam finally found his voice again. Mom, stop. This is going too far. Barbara turned to him, her expression suddenly wounded. Too far. I am fighting for your rights, Adam. For our family. After everything I sacrificed for you, is it too much to ask that you stand with me now? The emotional blackmail was so transparent I expected Adam to see through it immediately. Instead, he hesitated, torn between his lifelong pattern of appeasing his mother and standing by his new wife. I need to think, he said finally. This is all too much at once. His failure to immediately reject his mother's outrageous scheme felt like a betrayal. In that moment, I realized how deeply Barbara's influence ran in his life. How her years of emotional manipulation had created a man who struggled to set boundaries with her, even in the face of her most outrageous behavior. There is nothing to think about, Barbara pressed, sensing his weakness. Either she signs these papers willingly acknowledging what is rightfully yours as her husband, or we take this to court. Either way, I will not let her take advantage of my son. Take advantage, I laughed bitterly. I paid for most of our wedding without telling him. I covered 60% of our house down payment. I was planning to help him pay off his student loans as a wedding gift. How exactly am I taking advantage of Adam? Adam looked at me in surprise. You paid for most of the wedding, the house. I nodded, regretting the outburst, but too angry to filter my words. Yes. Because I love you, and wanted to build a life with you without financial stress. But I never expected to be ambushed in my own home by your mother and a notary, demanding I sign over my entire company. The company or the marriage, Barbara said suddenly, her voice cold and clear. That is the choice, Amelia. Sign over the company and remain part of this family, or refuse and accept the consequences. The ultimatum hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Mr. Patterson looked positively mortified now, clearly wishing he could disappear. Mrs. Clark, he ventured cautiously, I cannot notarize documents signed under duress. That would be illegal. Barbara shot him a withering glare but did not respond directly. Instead, she turned back to me. Well, Amelia, what will it be? I stood up, my decision made. Mr. Patterson, thank you for your professional integrity. Barbara, I think it is time for you and your notary to leave our home. Our home, she repeated with a sneer. The home you secretly paid for, you mean? Mom, Adam finally interjected with real firmness. Amelia is right. You need to leave. Now. We need space to discuss this privately. For a moment, Barbara looked genuinely shocked at her son's defiance. Then her expression hardened. Fine. But this discussion is not over. She gathered the documents, roughly shoving them back into Mr. Patterson's briefcase. Think carefully about where your loyalties lie, Adam. Remember who has always been there for you. After they left, an oppressive silence filled our living room. Adam and I stood facing each other like strangers. The gulf between us suddenly vast and terrifying. Why did you not tell me? He asked, finally, his voice hoarse with emotion. Did you not trust me at all? The conversation that followed would determine whether our new marriage would survive its first and most severe test. After Barbara and the notary left, Adam and I stood in painful silence for several minutes. The beautiful home we had chosen together, that should have been filled with newlywed joy, now felt like a battleground with invisible lines drawn between us. I need some time to process this, Adam finally said, his voice hollow. I cannot believe you kept something this significant from me for our entire relationship. I know I hurt you, I acknowledged, and I want to explain why I made that choice if you are willing to listen. He nodded stiffly, sitting down on the couch but maintaining physical distance between us. I took a deep breath and shared everything my history with opportunistic men, my grandfather's warnings about protecting what I built, my fear that revealing my wealth would fundamentally change how people saw me. When we met, you were so different from anyone I had dated, I explained. You cared about making a difference more than making money. You valued simplicity. I was afraid that knowing about my company might change our dynamic. Adam listened without interrupting, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he remained silent for a long moment. I understand your reasoning, he finally said. But understanding does not make the deception hurt less. You robbed me of the chance to prove I could love you regardless of your wealth. You decided I could not be trusted with the truth. His words struck home. In my effort to protect myself, I had denied Adam the opportunity to demonstrate his character. You are right, I admitted. I was wrong not to tell you. I was going to tell you after our honeymoon, but that does not excuse waiting so long. And what about my mother? He asked, his tone hardening. Did you suspect she would do something like this? I chose my words carefully. I had concerns about how close your relationship with her is, how much influence she has over your decisions. But no, I never imagined she would bring a notary to our home and demand I sign over my company. Adam ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I had come to recognize as a sign of his distress. She has always been protective, especially about money. After my dad left, we struggled financially. It left deep scars for both of us. Being protective is one thing, I countered gently. What happened today was attempted coercion. He flinched but did not disagree. I need some space, he said finally. To think about everything. That night I packed a small bag and checked into a hotel downtown. As I sat alone in the impersonal room, I called Caroline and explained what had happened. Her reaction was immediate and forceful. That was attempted fraud, possibly criminal coercion, she said firmly. We should consider filing a police report. I do not want to escalate things further, I replied. Right now I am more concerned about whether my marriage can survive this. That is your decision, Caroline acknowledged. But I recommend we take additional legal steps to protect your assets. Barbara has shown she is willing to go to extreme lengths. We should be prepared for further attempts. The next morning, I met Caroline at her office, where she helped me establish additional protections for the company. During our meeting, she shared a disturbing discovery. I had my paralegal do some research on Barbara Clark, she said, sliding a folder across her desk. She has significant financial problems. A second mortgage on her house, maxed out credit cards, and a tax lien from the IRS. She is on the verge of bankruptcy. The information provided context for Barbara's desperate behavior but did not excuse it. She saw me as a solution to her financial troubles, I realized aloud. Not just a threat to her relationship with Adam. Over the next 3 days, Adam sent several text messages, each reflecting his ongoing struggle to process what had happened. The first day, I am still trying to understand why you kept this from me. I thought we told each other everything. The second day, Mom keeps calling. Says she was just trying to protect me. I do not know what to believe anymore. The third day, I miss you. Can we talk in person? I have been doing a lot of thinking. On the fourth day of our separation, Adam asked to meet at a neutral location, a quiet coffee shop downtown. When I arrived, he looked exhausted with dark circles under his eyes and a weariness that had not been there before our wedding. I spoke with my mother yesterday, he began after we had settled with our drinks. Really spoke with her, perhaps for the first time in my adult life. I waited, giving him space to continue. I confronted her about her financial situation, which she finally admitted is dire. She saw your company as a solution to her problems. She convinced herself that what she was doing was for my benefit, but it was really for herself. His recognition of his mother's true motivations gave me a flicker of hope. The thing is, he continued, this situation has forced me to recognize how much I have enabled her dependence on me. How I have allowed her to influence my decisions out of guilt and a misplaced sense of obligation. He reached across the table, tentatively taking my hand. I am angry that you were not honest with me about your company. That hurt has not disappeared. But I am also deeply ashamed that I did not immediately stand up for you when my mother tried to coerce you, that my loyalty was even momentarily divided. We both made mistakes, I acknowledged, squeezing his hand. I love you, Amelia, he said, his eyes meeting mine directly. I did not marry you for your money or your company. I married you because you are brilliant, compassionate, and strong. I want to rebuild what we had, but I know it will take work from both of us. His words touched something deep within me, but I knew we could not simply return to how things were before. If we move forward together, things need to change, I said carefully. I need to know that you can set firm boundaries with your mother, and we both need to commit to complete honesty going forward. Adam nodded solemnly. I have already told my mother that her behavior was unacceptable. I have made it clear that if she cannot respect our marriage and respect you, she cannot be part of our lives. His willingness to establish consequences with Barbara surprised and encouraged me. That could not have been easy for you. It was not, he admitted, but it was necessary. I have also suggested she seek financial counseling and therapy to address her underlying issues. Whether she follows through is her choice, but I will not enable her behavior anymore. We talked for hours that afternoon about trust boundaries and what rebuilding our relationship would require. By the end of our conversation, we had established a plan, couples therapy, to help us navigate the breach of trust, family therapy with Barbara, if she was willing, and complete financial transparency between us going forward. I would like you to come home, Adam said as we prepared to leave. It is your house too, more than I realized. That evening, I returned to our home. The reconciliation was tentative, fragile, but real. Adam asked to learn about my company, showing genuine interest in understanding the work that had been such a significant part of my life. I shared everything from the daily operations to the growth strategies I had implemented. You are incredible, he said with genuine admiration after I showed him our company portfolio. What you have built, how you have honored your grandfather's legacy while making it your own. I wish I had known this side of you sooner. His words healed something in me, a fear that had lingered throughout our relationship that my success might somehow diminish his feelings for me. Instead, he seemed proud, supportive, in a way I had not dared to hope for. The following week, we attended our first couples therapy session. The therapist helped us establish healthy communication patterns and address the underlying issues that had contributed to our crisis. Trust is rebuilt in small moments of honesty, she reminded us. Day by day, choice by choice. Adam took her words to heart, demonstrating his commitment through consistent actions. He established clear boundaries with his mother, insisting that she respect our marriage if she wanted to remain in our lives. When Barbara tested those boundaries, as she inevitably did, he held firm. For my part, I worked to overcome my instinct to protect and conceal. I shared not just the triumphs of my business, but also the challenges and uncertainties, allowing Adam to support me through difficult decisions and celebrate successes with me. Our path forward was not without obstacles. Barbara initially resisted Adam's new boundaries, alternating between tearful pleas and angry accusations. But as weeks passed and Adam remained firm, she gradually began to accept the new reality of our relationship. 1 month after the confrontation, I made a decision that surprised even me. I invited Barbara to my office, giving her a tour of Right Security Solutions and introducing her to key members of my team. I want you to understand what this company means to me, I explained as we sat in my office afterward. Not just financially, but as my grandfather's legacy and the livelihood of 78 employees who depend on us. Barbara listened more receptively than I had expected. I behaved terribly. She finally admitted not meeting my eyes. I convinced myself I was protecting Adam, but the truth is I saw an opportunity to solve my own problems at your expense. Her acknowledgement, however, belated, represented progress. We all make mistakes, I said carefully. What matters is how we move forward. That conversation marked a turning point in our relationship with Barbara. While we would never be close friends, we established a cautious respect that allowed family gatherings without the underlying tension that had characterized our earlier interactions. As for Adam and me, the crisis that might have destroyed our marriage ultimately strengthened it. 6 months after our wedding, we had established a new foundation built on honesty, mutual respect, and true partnership. "I never imagined my life could look like this," Adam told me one evening as we sat on our patio watching the sunset. "Teaching students I love by day, supporting my brilliant CEO wife by night. I feel like the luckiest man alive." I leaned against his shoulder, feeling a contentment I had never expected to find. "I am the lucky one," I replied. "To have a partner who sees all of me and loves me completely." The road ahead would hold challenges, as all marriages do. But having weathered our first major storm, I believed we had the tools to face whatever came next together. 6 months after the notary incident, Adam and I celebrated our first half-year of marriage with a quiet dinner at home. As we shared a bottle of wine on our patio, I reflected on the journey we had traveled together since that tumultuous day. If someone had told me 6 months ago that we would be here stronger than ever, I might not have believed them, I admitted, taking Adam's hand across the table. He smiled, the genuine warmth reaching his eyes in a way that still made my heart skip. "Sometimes the strongest foundations are built after an earthquake, reveals the weaknesses in the original structure." His analogy was apt. The crisis had exposed fundamental issues in our relationship that might have otherwise remained hidden for years. My fear of being valued only for my wealth, Adam's inability to set boundaries with his mother, our mutual struggle with complete vulnerability. Couples therapy had been instrumental in our healing process. Dr. Winters, our therapist, helped us establish communication patterns that allowed for honest expression without judgment or defensiveness. Each week we practiced active listening, validating each other's experiences even when they differed from our own. "I never realized how much energy I spent filtering my words and hiding parts of myself," I told Adam during one particularly breakthrough session. "Even before the company's secret, I held back so much out of fear of rejection. And I never understood how much I sacrificed my own needs to keep peace with my mother," Adam acknowledged. "I confused appeasement with love, obligation with relationship." Dr. Winters helped us recognize that true intimacy required both risk and boundaries, vulnerability and self-respect. Slowly, session by session, we rebuilt our foundation with these principles at its core. The transformation in Adam's relationship with Barbara was perhaps the most remarkable change. After several false starts and difficult conversations, he convinced her to join us for family therapy sessions with Dr. Martinez, a specialist in family systems. Barbara initially resisted, arriving at the first session with defensive energy and prepared arguments. "I was only trying to protect my son," she insisted. "Any mother would do the same." "Protection comes from love," Dr. Martinez acknowledged. "But sometimes what we call protection is actually control. And control stems from fear, not love." Over several months of therapy, Barbara gradually revealed the trauma underlying her behavior. The humiliation of being abandoned by Adam's father had created deep financial insecurity and fear of loss that manifested as controlling behavior. Her identity had become so intertwined with being Adam's protector that she could not recognize when protection became harmful. "I was terrified of losing you," she admitted to Adam during a breakthrough session. "When you married Amelia, it felt like I was being replaced. I thought if I could control the financial aspect, I would still have a role, still be needed." Her vulnerability in that moment opened the door to genuine healing. While Barbara's progress was not linear, with occasional relapses into manipulative behavior, her willingness to examine her patterns created space for a healthier relationship with both of us. 3 months into therapy, Barbara made a gesture that stunned me. She arrived at our home one Sunday afternoon with a notarized letter, a counterpoint to her previous visit with the notary. "This is an apology in writing and legally witnessed," she explained, handing me the document. "It acknowledges that I acted inappropriately and relinquishes any claim I suggested I might have on your company. I know it does not undo what I did, but I wanted to make it official." The document was unnecessary from a legal standpoint, but its symbolic importance was profound. It represented Barbara's recognition of boundaries and her commitment to respecting our marriage. That same month, I finally shared the complete details of Right Security Solutions with Adam. Rather than just explaining the business structure, I brought him to strategy meetings, introduced him to my executive team, and showed him the development projects that excited me most. I want you to be part of this aspect of my life, I explained. Not as an owner or controller, but as my partner and supporter. Adam embraced this role with enthusiasm that surprised and delighted me. He offered insightful questions during strategy discussions, remembered details about key employees' families, and celebrated company milestones as proudly as if they were his own achievements. "I love seeing you in your element," he told me after attending our quarterly all-hands meeting. "You are brilliant and compassionate as a leader. Your grandfather would be so proud." As trust rebuilt between us, we established new financial arrangements that balanced autonomy with partnership. We created a joint account for household expenses proportionally funded based on our incomes. I maintained primary ownership of my company through the trust, but established Adam as a beneficiary alongside charitable foundations supporting education initiatives. "This feels right," Adam said when we finalized the arrangements. "You maintaining control of what you built, while we share our life and support each other's goals." His easy acceptance of these boundaries reinforced what I had hoped from the beginning, that he valued me for myself, not my wealth. The realization filled me with a bittersweet regret that I had not trusted him sooner, while also confirming that our rebuilt relationship was stronger for having weathered the storm. The healing process extended beyond our immediate family. Barbara, motivated by her therapy insights, sought financial counseling to address her significant debt. Rather than bailing her out completely, which might have reinforced unhealthy patterns, Adam and I helped her develop a sustainable repayment plan and contributed enough to prevent immediate crisis. "I need to learn to stand on my own," she acknowledged, a significant shift from her previous entitlement. "For too long, I have used my role as your mother to avoid adult responsibilities." As Barbara worked toward financial independence, she also developed interests outside her relationship with Adam. She joined a book club, volunteered at a local literacy program, and even began dating, tentatively exploring a relationship with a kind, retired professor she met through her volunteer work. "I never thought I would say this," Adam confessed one evening, "but I think the Notary incident might have been the best thing that could have happened to our family. Not the way it happened, but what it forced us all to confront." I understood what he meant. The crisis had catalyzed growth that might otherwise have taken years if it happened at all. It had forced us to establish healthy patterns from the beginning of our marriage, rather than building on a shaky foundation of unspoken fears and unexamined assumptions. The professional impact of these personal changes surprised me as well. As I brought my authentic self to both my marriage and my leadership role, Right Security Solutions flourished. My newfound emotional stability translated into clearer decision-making and more confident leadership. Under my guidance, the company expanded into new markets, increased revenue by 28%, and improved employee retention significantly. "Your grandfather always said that personal integrity and business success were interconnected," my longtime CFO commented during our annual planning retreat. "I see his wisdom in how you have led us through this period of growth." 1 year after our wedding, Adam and I renewed our vows in an intimate ceremony attended only by our closest friends and family, including a much-changed Barbara. We wrote new vows that acknowledged both our difficult journey and the strength we had found together. "I promise to see you fully and love you completely," Adam vowed, his voice steady and sure. "To celebrate your successes as my own, to respect your independence while standing firmly by your side, and to build boundaries that protect our love while allowing us both to grow." "I promise to trust you with all of me," I responded, the words coming from a place of hard-won wisdom. "To share my fears as well as my dreams, to value your strength without fearing your power, and to remember always that true partnership requires both vulnerability and courage." As we move forward into our future together, I carry with me profound lessons from our journey. I learned that protecting yourself does not mean closing yourself off from love, that true strength comes from allowing yourself to be seen, and that trust once broken can be rebuilt stronger than before if both people are committed to the place in. Work of healing. For any of you watching who may be struggling with similar challenges, whether in relationships, family dynamics, or your own journey toward authentic living, I hope our story offers both caution and hope. Protect what matters to you, yes, but do not let fear prevent you from experiencing the profound connection that comes from being truly known and accepted. Have you ever had to protect yourself while still opening your heart to love? I would love to hear your experiences in the comments below. And if our story resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share with someone who might need to hear that even after betrayal and mistrust, healing is possible. Thank you for joining me on this journey, and I wish you courage in your own path toward authentic connection and self-protection.